Well, hello there. Today I'm in my kitchen and I'm going to be cooking a chili con carne. This is from an old Sainsbury's recipe book that I had maybe 40 years ago. No, maybe not quite 40 years ago, but a good 35 years ago. So the book's getting a bit dirty and ropey and horrid now. But anyway, so over here, behind me, I've got my garlic, I've got my onions, I've got my beef steak that I'm going to chop up. I've got a tin of tomatoes and a tin of kidney beans ready to go. I've also got some oregano, some cumin, and some chili powder, as well as salt and pepper and all that kind of stuff. So I'm trying to get away from using vegetable oil. So the original recipe called for sunflower oil, but I'm going to use beef dripping instead. This is because of the health dangers involved with using lots of processed vegetable oil. Anyway, so forget all that lot. So here's what I've got over here now. There we go. Here we go. Right, I've got all my stuff ready to go. I can show you in the picture just now. Here's the beef. I've got the onions. I've got the garlic, chopping knife, obviously. Kidney beans, chopped tomatoes, bit of beef dripping that I'm going to use. I've got some fresh ground cumin. I've got some oregano, chili powder, and a little bit of this crushed chilies. Well, see how strong it goes. I might not use the crushed chilies. So anyway, there it is. So you don't need to watch me chop all this lot up. Maybe I'll show you a little tip about the garlic. I'll show you that later on. So we'll get round to doing that in a minute. But first, I'm going to prepare everything that I need for this meal, and going to get on with it. And we'll see you in a minute. So first, I'm going to start off by drying the meat. It's a bit damp and moist as it comes out the packet. So I'm just going to dab it all dry, take off all the extra juices that we don't need. And then I'm going to trim the fat off. Not that it will do us any harm, but there's a piece of gristle there. Don't want that in our chili. So just carefully cutting off the excess fat that I don't want in my meal. So that's that one done. This one's also got a bit of gristle in it as well. Oh, not happy with Morrison's. What they should have done was trim off all the fat, but then again they would have charged us, I suppose. Still charged us for the fat, even though we wouldn't have got it. Anyway, shame the dog's not here, because he would have loved this little bit. There we go. Don't want to lose that piece of meat. And last one. Cut the gristle off. Very quickly. There we go. That lot can go in the waste bin. Right, now it says to chop it up into, what is it? Into 3-inch strips, it says. But I prefer cubes anyway. So we'll just slice through there. I get a little bowl. There we go. I've got a little bowl ready for later. Now my mother is a vegetarian, so she wouldn't eat this. But Sarah and I both eat a little bit of meat now and again. Yeah, I had to nip out because the garlic was a bit off. You got this will be the first meal we've cooked. Well, I've cooked in this kitchen for a long time. Before I went away on holiday, and I think the garlic was left over from then. Anyway, so we're going to cut it here. Right, going to do the onions. Little trick I learned from Ainsley Harriet is to leave that part of the onion on and then chop the top off. That's good. That's not too rotten in the middle. We'll cut down there, and we should be able to just peel that off. So I shall cut it here, cut the video here, and then we'll resume when it's all chopped up. Right, so I'm going to chop the onion up, chop it up nice and small. This is what Ainsley Harriet told me to do, is to cut it down there, like that, and then slice it into this. Remember, we've got the root of the onion still on there, really, so it keeps it all together until you come to do your final chop. There we go. Not much wastage there. Cut through the side again, like that. Almost said like so. Oh, my bit's come out. Right, you don't need to see me do the second onion. Now for the garlic. Right, what I normally do is I cut the root end of the garlic off and strip off a little strip, and then, oh, that's a bit nasty. I don't want that on there. Right, so we give the garlic a bit of a smack, and then the paper comes off quite easily like that. So that's that first one done. Just do it again. Well, there's two there. So cut the root end off. Peel off a bit of paper, lay it down and give it a smack. There you go. Not so vicious that time. And the paper just comes straight off. And if you haven't really crushed the garlic, then that's when I give it another good crush. And that's it. I don't chop the garlic. I just stick it straight in the pan like that. Great large lumps. That way you don't get too much in the way of smell, because it's when you damage the cells that you get all the smell of garlic on your breath the day after. So I just crush it, keep it all in one lump, and it's really quite tasty. Sarah says I put too much garlic in, but don't listen to Sarah. She doesn't know what she's talking about. Anyway, so see, I don't need to show you much more of me doing the garlics. So I'll finish the garlic and I'll get back to you. Right, now then, I'm going to put the herbs and spices into this little bowl to add later, just so I can get everything out of the way, really. So what we've got to do, we've got to add, what does it say? Ground cumin. It says to add half a teaspoon. So that's about half a teaspoon. Slightly more than the recipe says, but doesn't really matter. It all comes out the same. And now the oregano. What's it say about the oregano? Half a teaspoon of that again. Now the thing with dried herbs is that they lose a bit of their flavour, and you need to really add a little bit more than they say they should. Well, I know it's a bit naughty, but anyway. So for the chilli powder. Now I'm using a mild chili powder. Now I know from experience that I can add quite a bit of this and it doesn't blow your head off. Sarah doesn't like it that hot. So one of the things that's kind of a bit hard. Anyway, like I said, you've got to add a little bit more than the recipe says. If it was freshly ground, then that would be completely different, wouldn't it? But the older your chili mix and your herbs and spices, the more you really need to put in, really, to give it a bit of a kick. And I'm going to add a little bit of these crushed chilies. These are medium, so I'm just going to give it half a teaspoon, a quarter of a teaspoon, just to let Sarah, well, let me know that it's going to be a bit on the spicy side anyway. So that's about it then. Now there's my tinned tomatoes. Just going to pop the lid off that. So I'll need that open in a minute. And then I'm going to set these draining, actually. You don't really need to put the kidney beans in right until the very end. It says about half an hour before the end, 15 minutes before the end. Actually, I tend to put these in maybe an hour or half an hour before the end, just so that they're really cooked and soft. You know, what I don't like is a bit too in the way of crunchy, if you know what I mean. Anyway, so I'm just going to take the lid off. So these are kidney beans in, yeah, I know kidney beans is a word, I know. Just making things up as I go along. So there's the kidney beans. It's a bit of a in-joke, really, when you say kidney beans. Anyway, so what I'm going to do now, I'll get my tea towel out of the drawer, is I'm going to get the big pan out and start to fry the meat off. And then I'm going to then add everything else. So we'll see you in a minute when I get the pan out. So I've added a little bit of this beef dripping, just slightly more than a teaspoon, maybe a tablespoon, I think. Guess a tablespoon I put in. So a tablespoon of beef dripping, and when I do the onions, I'll add a bit more. So anyway, I'm going to turn the hob on. Now, what we've got here is an induction hob. I do love the induction hob. You can keep your hands right next to everything, and it doesn't get hot. It's only the pan that gets hot. I find that absolutely amazing. So I'm going to put all the meat in. It's a big pan. It does say to do it in 2 batches, but this is a big pan, and I should be able to get away with browning the meat in one go. And then once I've finished browning the meat, I'm going to take the meat out of the pan and put the onions in. So we'll catch you on the next step. Well, that's the meat cooked, I reckon. That's thoroughly browned off, so I'm just going to move that spoon over there. Well, I take the meat out of this pan and put it to one side. Then I'm going to fry the onions. So we'll just finish this little bit off, and then we'll start frying the onions. Right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start to fry the onions now. So I'm just going to add a little bit more oil to the pan. It says 3 tablespoons of oil, so I'm going to put in another. See what I need. See what coats the bottom of the pan, really. So that's about a tablespoon. That's 1 and a bit. There we go. That'll be 2 tablespoons, I reckon. So just going to wipe that off of there. Put that spoon there. Where's my little cloth? There we go. My little cleaning cloth. Alright, so I'm just going to increase the temperature to melt the oil, and then I'm going to put my onions and garlic in this pan. So there's all the onions and garlic going in. Now the idea being is to slightly brown the onions, is to give them a slight proper brown caramelized onion look to them. And then we'll add the herbs and spices. So just put the lid back on that, put that back away in the fridge. So while that's heating up, we'll just go through all the list of the ingredients. I've got about 650 grams worth of beef cut into strips. I've got 2 medium-sized onions, chopped up quite finely, really, for me anyway. They are quite large chunks, I suppose. I've I put the whole bulb of garlic in. I love garlic, so that's what I've done with that. So I've got 2 teaspoons of chili powder. I've got half a teaspoon of cumin, half a teaspoon of oregano. What's going to go in next is a little bit of salt and pepper. I should put that, probably should put that in the bowl with that, shouldn't I really? So I'll do that in a minute. So once I've cooked the herbs and spices in with the onions, the meat will go back in and the chopped onions will go back in, and then right at the very end I shall put in the kidney beans, and I shall then season it a bit more. If I need to put in more salt and pepper or more chili powder, if it's not hot enough, I'll put in more chili powder, and that's what I would recommend that you do. If you think it's going to be too hot, don't put too much chili powder in at the start. But what you need to do is, of course, when you're cooking everything together, is make sure that all the herbs and spices are fried, so that they release the aromatic oils and flavours that you would get in there. But you can't do that at low temperatures. It's got to be quite a high temperature to release the chili oils and stuff out of the powder. Anyway, so I'll get back to that in a minute when the onions are cooked and I'm ready to add the herbs and spices. Now the onions have started to take on a little bit of colour. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to keep the heat on and then just add the herbs and spices that I put in the bowl. You can see I put in some salt and some pepper in there, and I'm just going to add that now. And then I'm just going to cook this for a minute, and boy, I can smell it coming through now. Oh, you should smell this, it's absolutely fantastic. Give this a minute or two. Yeah, you can see the colour coming out now into the oil that's in there. The colour's really coming out, nice red colour coming out, lovely. Right, just to turn the heat down. It's one of the advantages of using an induction hob is the heat comes off really quickly. And like I say, it's not hot there at all. It's warm, but it's not hot. Right by the edge of the pan. Anyway, so that's that gone in. So we can now add 150 mils of water. You can add a bit more if you need to, as it's cooking. Now this takes a phenomenal amount of time to cook. It's not a quick recipe. This is really not a quick recipe. So that's all the meat gone in. Now I'm going to put in my tin of chopped tomatoes. And I don't know if you can see, but I've already drained the kidney beans and left them there to drain a bit more into the tin, or else it will be leaking all over the worktop. Anyway, so right, that's it. Now this is it for the next couple of hours. Now I'm just going to turn the heat up until it starts to simmer, and then I'm going to put the lid on and I'm going to turn it right down. So while that's cooking, I'm going to go and I should do the washing up, put everything in the dishwasher and get everything cleaned and ready. So all the only thing I've got dirty will be the mixing spoon and this bowl, ready for tonight. So what we're going to have with rice, we're going to have rice with this, and I'll show you that in a minute. So that's about it. It's beginning to simmer. Now halfway through, give it maybe every hour for the next couple of hours, just to give it a stir, and if you need to add a bit more water, you can do that. So put the lid on, and turn this down. I've got it on number 3, so I'm going to go back in a few minutes to make sure that it's not boiling too hard, and then we'll see what happens. So let's go and talk about the rice. Now, to complement my chili dish that will be ready at tea time, it's just gone 12 o'clock now, so come 6 o'clock that'll be ready to consume. So to complement it, I'm going to cook some rice. Now I've got a rice cooker which I use in the microwave, which you can just see over my shoulder there in the back there. So I put 1 cup of rice in this, basmati rice, of course. It's I do love basmati rice. It's quite very, very versatile. Anyway, so 1 cup of rice and 2 1/4 cups of water. You don't need to put any salt in it. You can if you want to, but we put salt in at the end, depending on how salty the chili is. We'll put a bit of salt on. Anyway, so what I do is I put this in the microwave with 1 cup of rice, as I said, and 2 1/4, very important, 2 1/4 cups of water, and I put this on for about 10 minutes. After about 10 minutes, it's still very damp and wet inside. So what I do is I stir it around. I get a good knob of butter and I put that in the middle. James Martin's going to love me for this one. A good knob of butter in the middle. Depending on what we're going to do, we might sprinkle it with a little bit of salt there and then, but otherwise we leave the knob of butter in the middle, put it back in the microwave until all the water is absorbed. So it may take another 10 minutes, it all depends on the power of your microwave. But I find that 10 minutes to start with, and then about 8, maybe another 10 minutes, all depending really if I've added the correct amount of water. Maybe I've cooked a bit more rice. But yeah, on average it takes about 20 minutes to cook enough rice for 3 people. I find that a cup of rice, this is the measure cup, not your ordinary mug of rice, if you know what I mean. So that takes about 20 minutes in total, and I do check maybe after 5 minutes. I'll give it a check to see if it's still wet. If it's wet, and keep it cooking until all the water has gone and you've got nice, slightly sticky rice. Now I like it like that. I know a lot of people like to fry their rice first in butter or oil beforehand, and then put in some boiling water and let it steam for a good 15 to 20 minutes. But I prefer this method, and my lady Sarah also loves this method because the rice is so soft when it comes out. It absorbs the liquid from the curry or the chili or whatever you're cooking, and it's just a lovely rice. Anyway, but that's me, basmati rice for me. Anyway, so that's me. That's all we've got to do now, is just we have to wait for it to finish cooking, and then towards the end I shall adjust the flavours and put in the kidney beans, and we're done. So I hope you enjoy this particular video. Give it a like, give it a thumbs up if you really want to, and of course you can share it with your friends as well. And of course hit that subscribe button as well as a notification. Make sure you click all to get all my next videos. Anyway, there's I've got a lot of editing to do now, so I'm going to get on and do that. So see you all on the next one, and hopefully I shall put in I'll do a little video when we come to eat it later on. So it'll be part 2, I guess. Anyway, so I'll catch you all later. See ya. Bye then.